What's up guys, I got a brand new video for you today, and today this video is sponsored by Tilta. They sent me out the new Gravity G2x, and I really love this gimbal. It's something unique and something a little bit different, and you can see visually why. It's got a 45-degree roll motor, and it's in the front, but we'll talk about that in a bit. Tilta makes some really high-end cinema stuff, like accessories, cages, follow focuses, and stuff like that, and they're all like top-notch in the industry. This gimbal is no exception. It's all metal, it's got a wooden inlay in the handle, and the motors are nice. Everything is just built really well and like really high quality. So the gimbal weighs 3.9 pounds, so it's almost 4 pounds without anything in it. It can handle up to 8 pounds, which is crazy. Obviously it's handling my C200 with a Sigma 18-35. No single-handled pistol-style grips that I've used can really handle this combo. It has that 45-degree roll motor, which you can run in the front or in the rear. And if you run it in the front, you can put longer setups on it because your camera can back up. And you can also run it to the rear, which is awesome for smaller cameras because then you can actually see the back of the screen and the motor's not blocking it. It has a joystick for changing positions of the camera, as well as a 5-volt USB output that can run the nucleus-m nano follow focus that they have, and that's also in their Tilta Max line. And it also has another output, a 14.8 volt DC output that can run accessories and cameras and stuff like that. And it has a quick release plate that actually uses a Manfrotto style base plate, which is really awesome because you can pop this off and throw it on a Manfrotto tripod. And it obviously has Bluetooth, so you can connect the app to it, just like all the other gimbals, to calibrate it, tune it, and do other things like time lapses and set different settings like that. So as I showed from the start of the video with the footage shot with the Canon C200 and the Sigma 18-35 f1.8, this is like my favorite lens camera combo. It's just, I don't know, it's awesome to work with. But most gimbals on this size, this class, can't really handle that kind of weight. And even if they could handle the weight, they can't really handle the depth, because in order to balance the setup, because it's so long, you got to pull the camera back. And most gimbals have a roll motor right at the very back, and it would end up hitting. So with this 45-degree angled motor, it puts everything out of the way, and you might even be able to put longer lenses on it and maybe even more of a heavier setup on it. But the setup's pretty much all I'm really willing to handle because it gets so heavy. And I ended up walking around Comic-Con for like 4 hours with this setup. My arm was like dead by the end of the day, but it worked out nice. The motors weren't even getting hot. I was shooting with it pretty much all day. Calibration held up no problem. But yeah, let's take a look at some of the footage. So if you want to run the motor to the front, you actually have to go into the app, because default the motor's set to the rear. So you need to go into calibration and set that. You need to turn the motors off, then swivel the entire camera right around so it's facing the proper way. Then you need to click pan, it'll calibrate that. Then you need to click calibrate on the gyro calibration. Once that's done, you can turn the motor back on and it'll be set properly. Then you can go to auto tune and it'll tune the motors for the camera. So once you've got your gimbal actually calibrated, the gimbal has 4 different modes, and the mode selector is right on the front. It's a front button. So a single click will set the LED to a solid green, which means it's now in pan follow mode. And basically it just follows you around no matter where you move the gimbal. And you can actually adjust the speed inside the app at how fast you want it to do that. Double click will set the LED to a solid red, which means it's now in a tilt lock mode, which means it'll pan with you, but it won't tilt. It'll stay in the same position. Triple click sets it to a full lock, which means it's going to stay in the same position no matter where you put the gimbal. It's just going to lock it down basically exactly where it's set. Quadruple click sets it into a flashing blue LED, which sets the gimbal into a lock-on roll mode. The gimbal will follow you as you roll it. So aside from all the different modes, if you go into the app, you can actually run a time lapse. The gimbal doesn't really trigger the camera to take time lapses, so you need a camera that has a time lapse feature built into it. But what it can do is set your start point, your end point, and then the duration, and then you set up your time lapse settings on your camera, and then you can set it up and it'll just go. So yeah, as I said before, this gimbal is really well built. It's like top notch in quality. There's a few things that I like about it. The motors are extremely silent. They don't make any noise. So even if you were to run a smaller camera on here with like some kind of like a Rode video mic on top of it, you're not gonna hear any of that motor noise. It has that Manfrotto tripod quick release plate, and it also comes with a riser. And if you're wondering what the riser's for, that's for cameras that are a little bit smaller than the actual lens body. On some of the Sony Alpha cameras, the lenses are actually deeper than the actual body of the camera. So unable to actually get this to mount on the tripod plate, you actually have to put a riser on it so that the lens can dip down below it. It comes with this Hotshoe support mount up here to hold the top of the camera down, and it also comes with a lens support that actually screws into the base plate to hold the front end up if you have a really long lens. I like that the handle can disconnect from the body. It can pack down nice. You can take it apart. Some gimbals kind of stay together and they're a little bit too big, but this setup, you can pack it down nice and small, and if you don't want to use the included carrying case, you can just throw it in your backpack. Now, some of these gimbals come with a little mini tripod. This comes with sort of like a metal base plate, which you can actually disconnect, and you can actually screw this. It has a 1/4-20 and some other screws that you can actually mount to a base plate if you wanted to mount it on like a tripod. As I said before, the battery life is really good. It's like up to 10 hours. I have not charged any of the batteries yet. I've been running it since the day they sent it to me. And like I said, I ran it at Comic-Con for 4 hours, a couple hours another day shooting video, and it's been on this whole time. So it might be getting close to where it's about to die, but I don't know. I'm just gonna keep running it and see how long it can go for. The app is super intuitive on iOS. I haven't tried it on Android yet, but it works pretty well. You can auto-tune, you can set the motor stiffness and different things like that. And it's just really intuitive and makes sense. Right now it's saying it's set up for the G1. I have a feeling that once it actually comes out, it'll be for the G2. And it didn't seem to make a difference. Everything still seemed to work the way that it was supposed to. But I just wanted to mention that. So my final thoughts on this gimbal: if you're running something this heavy, be prepared to turn into the Hulk, because your arm is gonna be like maxed out. It's so heavy. I wouldn't really recommend running this with a single handle. It gets way too heavy. It's perfect for normal like DSLRs and smaller cameras like that. But they do have 2 rosette mounts on the side, and they do make handles for this, so you can actually screw in the handles to it. Or you can use their wooden handles that they make. They're a little bit smaller, but they would stick out the side like that. And it would just make more sense, because this handle's a little bit too small to put 2 hands on in order to handle something this heavy. But that's just something that I noticed. I also need to mention that this does not include the batteries. It takes 4 batteries. They're the 18650 battery, and they're pretty common for most gimbals. They're a little bit bigger, but they don't come with this gimbal, and I think it has something to do with shipping or something like that. But it does come with a charger that fits those batteries, so you don't have to worry about the charger. All in all, I really enjoyed using this gimbal. It might be one of my favorite single-handle gimbals out right now, and I think it's all thanks to that 45-degree motor on it. It puts it out of the way nice. If you're using something like the Canon 5D Mark IV or other cameras that don't have a flip out screen that is always plagued by having that roll motor in the way, this puts it out of the way nicely. If you want to put it to the front, or if you want to put it to the back, you're not going to have a problem. You can actually see the back of the screen of your camera. It handles a ton of weight. Build quality is awesome. App works well. Bluetooth syncs no problem, just right off the bat everything worked. If you want to know more about this gimbal or the G2, or if you even want to buy the gimbal, I'll put links in the description where to find this stuff. And I want to say thanks to Tilta for sending this to me. I actually really enjoyed using this gimbal. Good job, you guys. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. I'll see you in the next one.